Today we are going to talk about the best horror books that I've read of 2025 so far. Most of these books are from this year, but there's a couple that are not. It's just the best horror that I've personally read this year. So, I don't have these in any particular order right now because I figure at the end of the year when I do my top 10, then I'll put them in order. So these are kind of like just, I made a list. I wasn't 100% sure which one I loved the most. Maybe I kind of know. Anyway, the first one is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This is about unhinged women in the woods who are cannibals. So let me give you a brief synopsis on this one. It's about the two characters, Margot and Mama. And they've lived in the forest ever since Margot can remember. When Margot's not at school, they spend quiet days together in their cottage, waiting for strangers to knock at their door. Strays, Mama calls them. People who have strayed too far from the road. Mama loves strays, maybe a little too much. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm, and then she satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. Yuck. But Mama's want is stronger than her hunger sometimes. And when a beautiful white-toothed stray named Eden turns up in the heart of a snowstorm, Margot must confront the shifting dynamics of her family, untangle her own desires, and make her bid for freedom. This is just a really intense, strange book. It's effed up. It is disturbing AF. And it was just really well written. The writing is captivating, I must say. Just a fantastic book. It also has like undertones about motherhood and stuff like that. And it was just a really great book. After that one, we have This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. This book is super weird. It's got that whole like Lynchian vibe to it, which I love. Like the ending is one of those that kind of leaves you to just kind of like think about it and like what the F just happened in this book. Okay, so there's this couple, Vera and Thiago, and they get this thing called an Itza. It's basically like an Alexa, Alexa, turn on this song. Alexa, order me this. So the Itza becomes this like strange haunting where they live, and it takes on a life of its own. And it starts ordering stuff to their house that they didn't order, like floppy dildos, Industrial Things of Lie, a book about how to summon the dead, and all this crazy stuff. It's funny and strange up until the point when the wife of Thiago is killed. Thiago's world becomes pretty unbearable. They turn the death of the wife into something political, like the public and politicians, and so you have that like theme going on throughout that. Thiago just wants to like get away from where he lives and have people not bother him and harass him about this stuff. Let me give you a brief synopsis of it. So, it was Vera's idea to buy the Itza, the world's most advanced smart speaker. Didn't interest Diego at all, but Vera thought it would be a bit of fun for them amidst all the strange occurrences happening in the condo. But it made things worse. The cold spots, the scratching in the walls was weird enough. But peculiar packages start showing up, as I said. Then there's the eerie music at odd hours, Diego waking up and Itza projecting light shows in an empty room. You have like a barrage of texts from her well-meaning friends, the letting go, the moving on, waking up to the sound of Itza talking softly to someone in the room who isn't there. And the only thing left to do for Diego is just like get away. So he goes and gets a secluded cabin in Estes Park in Colorado, and it seemed like the perfect place to hole up with his grief. But soon, Diego realizes there's no escape, not from his guilt, his simmering rage, and from the evil that is haunting him, feeding on his grief, determined to make its way into this world. So the haunting follows him, and it's pretty effed up, and it's really weird and strange and like a little bit cosmic, very Lynchian, and I absolutely loved it. Would highly recommend. And then all these books too, I have standalone reviews for them, or will. I think there's one that this video might be out before the standalone comes out. I'm not 100% sure, but otherwise, I'll have links down below if you want more on any of these books. All right, so next up, we have The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This book is super weird. So it follows this group of kids. It follows them from high school. So they are teenagers in the woods and they all go camping. And what do teenagers do in the woods? They like to hang out and drink and do drugs and, hook up and whatnot. So these friends all go camping, and the spot they go to, they find this weird like staircase in the woods, a staircase to nowhere. And they all get kind of weird vibes from it and decide they're not gonna like go up the staircase or climb it or anything. So they don't. But then stuff happens where two of the friends get in a fight, and then the one guy is like, I'm going up the staircase. You guys can come with me, or, whatever. I'm invoking the covenant, which was this thing that they had that, like, when they needed support from each other, they would invoke the covenant and everyone would have each other's backs. So they all kind of reluctantly go over there while the one kid runs up the staircase and then he disappears. And then while everyone's not looking for a second, the staircase disappears. And so their friend disappeared, and then the town folks kind of blamed them for it. And so for years, none of them really looked for the guy who went missing except for the one friend. Okay, so anyways, 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared, and now the group returns to see if they can find their lost friend and what they will do and the dynamic. So you bounce between like when they were in high school and teenagers. So you get a lot of like the teenager mindset and whatnot throughout this because, well, they were teenagers. Now in present as adults, like how what happened has affected them in their lives, and maybe they haven't quite moved on from any of that. And I thought it was really great horror. It's super weird. It's super weird when you find out where the staircase goes to. That part I thought was really cool. I don't want to tell you because that's like such a huge spoiler, but I really enjoyed this book. And that was the first Chuck Wendig book I'd ever read. Loved it. Would recommend. Okay, so after that one was an insanely deranged horror that was absolutely fantastic, and that is Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This book is just unhinged insanity from like the beginning. So let me tell you what it's about. So, Noah Fairchild has been losing his formerly polite Southern parents to the far right cable news for years. So, when his mother leaves him a voicemail warning him that the great reckoning is here, he assumes it's related to one of those many like conspiracy theories she believes. But when his own phone calls go unanswered, Noah makes a long drive from Brooklyn to Richmond, Virginia. There he discovers his childhood home in shambles, a fridge full of spoiled food, and his parents locked in this like terrifying trance-like state in front of the TV. Panicked, Noah attempts to snap them out of it and get medical help. But then Noah's mom brutally attacks him. But Noah isn't the only one to be attacked by a loved one. Families like across the country are tearing each other apart. Literally, as people succumb to a form of possession that gets worse the more time they spend watching particular channels, using certain apps, or visiting certain websites. In Noah's Richmond-based family, only he and his young nephew Marcus are unaffected. Together, they must race back to the safe haven of Brooklyn, but can they make it before they fall prey to the violent hordes? And it's pretty crazy. It's such a wild book, and it's like it's so disturbing too because the underlying theme of it is like how people have been brainwashed by certain news channels that don't really broadcast news. All right, so after that one, we have a short little novella that is beautifully deranged, and that is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fito. Holy crap, this book is great. The main character loves to lick things. Alive things, dead things, inanimate things. People's faces, dead heads of baby cows, just weird things, the wall, a painting. She might have some issues, this main character. So, main character, Winifred Naughty. She arrives at the Enzer house prepared to play the perfect governess. So she'll tutor her charges, Drusilla and Andrew, tell them bedtime stories, and only joke about eating children. But long, listless days spent within the estate's dreary confines come with an intimate knowledge of the perversions and pathetic preoccupations of the Pounds family. Mr. Pounds can't keep his eyes off of Winifred's chest, and Mrs. Pounds takes a sickly pleasure in punishing Winifred for her husband's wandering eye. Compounded with her disdain for the entitled Pounds children, Winifred finds herself struggling at every turn to stifle the violent compulsions of her past. French tutoring and needlework are one way to pass the time, as is admiring the ugly portraits in the gallery and creeping across the moonlit lawns. She also likes to talk to the galleries in the hallway. And oh, one time she mistook a person for a painting on the wall and stabbed it in the eye. And then the bodies start piling up. Thank goodness they're in a really giant house so she can hide them where no one will ever find them. And it's a crazy book and it's freaking great. It's just super unhinged. Loved it. Next up, we have an oldie but goodie, and that is Stand by Stephen King. Read it for the first time this year, and it was absolutely fantastic. I had been putting it off for a long time just because it's such a huge book. I think it's like 1,200 pages. It's very long. It took me a month to get through. I thought I was going to read it a lot faster, but I had to like pick it up and put it down. So there's a pandemic that hits the world, and 98% of the population is wiped out. And then it turns into this whole thing. It's like good versus evil. You have the people who do survive either end up going towards the Walking Man, Randall Flagg, who is an evil SOB, or they go towards Mother Abigail, who is welcoming all, playing her guitar on her porch, and she's trying to uplift and bring, peace to people, as they start to slowly come back together to rebuild society and all of that. And it's such an amazing book. Like, I loved it so much. It might be one of my favorite Stephen King books ever at this point. I'm not 100% sure. I still have to go and like look at all the King books I've read and kind of organize them and whatnot, but this stands absolutely fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to read that one, I would highly recommend it. Okay, next up we have When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Nat Cassidy has become a must-read author for me. Loved Mary, loved Nestlings. This newest one might be my favorite. I was like, okay, cool, werewolf book. I need to read more werewolf books. But this is so much more than just a werewolf book. It's like, yeah, kind of werewolfy, but then it's like super X-Files. Like there was military experiments going on and weird psychic stuff. And so let me just give you a brief synopsis of the book. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, Jess slowly comes to a horrifying understanding of the butchery that follows them. The boy can turn his every fear into reality. And when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. So, like I said, the military experimentation happened on the father. And one of the side effects that was supposed to happen between all the soldiers that were experimented on was they were supposed to be sterile. But this guy ended up having a kid. And so at first, he stayed on base and let the military kind of monitor the kid and like the stuff that was going on and the weird like psychic abilities this kid seemed to have. But then he at some point decided he didn't like this anymore. So he took the kid and they'd been kind of living off the grid, and he was trying to keep the kid secluded, and like he wouldn't allow him to look at any books or TV and or leave the house or anything. And like the father would get so enraged about everything. Like he wasn't really protecting this kid, but how do you really protect this kid with these crazy abilities? And so it's a crazy story. I absolutely loved it. It's so freaking good. Nat Cassidy freaking rocks. If you like weird, like werewolf slash X-Files type books, highly recommend. I highly recommend all these books on this list. They're all freaking awesome. Best horror I've read so far this year. What is some of the best horror you've read so far this year? Let me know down in the comments, because always looking for more great horror. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.